Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of From Page to Stage. Now, I'm your host, Wendy Corner, and I will be bringing you recordings, interviews with some fabulous people. Some have already done their page and their stage, and we talk about how they've done the page to stage. Actually, some of them, it's the stage to the page and then to the stage, and they go hand in hand. Other people we'll be interviewing are people who are authors, published authors, but not quite comfortable, familiar with the speaky bit yet. So those are the two streams of people you'll hear interviews from. Today, I have the joy and pleasure of bringing to you a conversation with Terri Adams-Munn. Terri and I have known each other for 2-3 years.
I'd say probably 3, easily 3.
We never met.
No, not yet.
But this is the joy of the internet, isn't it? You know, sort of Terri's on the opposite side, diagonally opposite side of Australia to where I was based in Perth. So one day we are going to have the biggest hug going.
Yep.
I promise you that. Anyway, Terri, would you tell us a little bit about who you are and what's brought you to this place in life so far?
Thank you, Wendy, and thank you for the invitation to be on here. It is always a pleasure to be on someone else's podcast. Always.
I was on hers last week.
So mine's a little different. I stream mine live, and we're reverse engineering from live into recorded versions.
Mm-hmm.
So my work started out because I realized that what I was doing, what I now do professionally, I've done for my friends and family in conversations my whole life in one form or another. Putting an actual name on what I do, I don't know what to call myself still. I've been doing this for 5 years professionally. But let me tell you a little bit about the business side of things, and that will probably tell you more about what I do individually. So my business, as you can see up the top there, is called 10,000 Dreams, for those of you who are watching the visual of this one. 10,000 Dreams started after having a conversation with a friend of mine who owned a hairdressing salon. She and I had been friends for quite a time at then, and we hadn't caught up. So we sat and had a chat. I call my calls Tuesday chats because I do like a chat. Anyway, Cassie and I sat for 3 hours that day chatting about business and life, and I'd been to a workshop that she couldn't get to, and I was filling her in on all that stuff because at the time she was considering adding drop shipping. And at the end of that conversation, she said to me, "Terri, will you be my business coach? I've gotten more out of this conversation in 3 hours than I had out of my current coach in the last 3 months."
Whoa.
And so I'm like, oh, okay. Internally, my brain's going berserk. Externally, I'm like, yeah, sure. And a month later, we had our first session together. And that's the point that 10,000 Dreams was born. My focus in my work is helping particularly small business owners to create the life of their dreams, because all of us who have started our own business have started it usually from a point of passion. There's very few people who go into starting a business from scratch from simply, I can make a bucket load of money in here. Now, some do, zero judgment, because business is about making money. It's so that we can, money is a conduit, it's a magnifier, there's no good or evil to it, it just is. But it gives us the capacity to choose what we do with our lives, how we live, who we help, the impact that we can create, the legacy that we leave. An element of all of those things comes down to the volume of money that is in a part of our world. And that's where our businesses come in. They generate the money. Now, so many business owners who get in from this point of passion into their business end up, instead of having the business and life of their dreams, they end up with a little bit of a nightmare, because they'll come in and maybe they're really amazing at what they're doing, but they're not so great on the business management skills, or maybe it's back the other way and it's about finding the right staff, or maybe they don't really know what they want and they're just like running to the whim of their clients and not defining boundaries that then allow them to be the parent that they choose, or the partner that they choose, or whatever else it is that's important to them. So my work is about helping people to take a step backwards and to define your dreams, to get really clear on what it is that you want for your life now and into the future, And then from there, we go backwards and go, okay, here's what we want. This is what we currently have. There's a gap. Let's start filling them. And it's a multifaceted approach. I'm not the expert that can help you with everything. However, I do also, as a part of who I am naturally, have an extensive network so that when you're, say, wanting to refine the branding of your business, I can refer you to multiple people who will work in with us to help you get those visuals correct so that it helps you to attract the clients that you actually need for the services that you want to provide. And so it's a multifaceted approach. I've had people call me a business coach. Some will call me a life coach. Some call me a business life coach, but no one really knows what that means. I've been called a dream facilitator. There's a million different things. And I haven't, as I said, I haven't really settled on a single one. I haven't invested enough time in it, quite frankly, to define a single one.
Well, wouldn't it be interesting, cutting in on you for a minute, wouldn't it be interesting to ask the people that you have worked with, how do they define you?
Most of them come back to business coach. And I actually find that really limiting.
Right.
Because yes, my focus is on helping people with their businesses. Because if you're a smaller operator, your business and your life are inextricably interwoven. And so your life is going to impact your business and your business is going to impact your life. And that's a part of the human experience.
Yes.
But if you've got like significant relationship challenges going on with your partner, with your children, with your parents, whatever, I'm happy to chat about that stuff. I'm not the person to give you in-depth support on that. It's not my qualifications and it's not my zone of genius. And so then it's about, okay, how do we find someone who can work with us so that we've got this multidisciplinary approach to help you get to where you need to be? Because I don't know about you, but I work with at least 2 coaches myself on an ongoing basis. One who's got a personal focus and one who has a business focus.
Right. Yeah.
And those coaches may change, but I've always got that in my wheelhouse as people who are a part of my team. And I think it's something that everybody needs if you're going to maximize who you are as a human being and what you can do on this earth.
Yeah, that's it, because so many of us like to do it alone. I need to be in control. I need to, by asking for help, I'm in that position of vulnerability, and that's admitting failure, and I can't. Things that.
Okay, we have a little bit of a freezing situation happening here.
Holistic view of life and business.
Yeah,
got it. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
What got you into that in the first place? You mentioned about that conversation with your hairdresser friend.
Yes.
But now tell us a bit more about how you formalized the dream stuff.
So that was a bit of a longer process. I had been, prior to starting this business, I had the pleasure of being primarily a stay-at-home parent for about 15 years. Now, my definition of stay-at-home parent is you take care of the kids and they're my primary responsibility, because my husband worked away in shift work or FIFO kind of work at the time, and still does.
Fly in, fly out for our audience who don't know FIFO.
So right now, he used to do week on, week off. Then he did 2 on, 2 off. Right now, he's away Monday to Friday, and I only see him Friday night through to Monday morning at most. And look, this is the life we've chosen. It's what we've created, and it's not easy, but it's moving us towards our dreams.
Yes,
and it's absolutely. He's working for a corporation, but he's doing work that he is incredibly passionate about. So even when we get to the point where his income becomes, essentially pocket money, he doesn't want to stop working until he needs to retire. So yes, it's not what most people choose. And sure, I would like to have my husband home a little bit more, but we created this, okay? And so this is the life that we lead. Prior to starting 10,000 Dreams, as I said, I was working, the stay-at-home parent stuff for me that meant at least 1, maybe 2 or 3 micro businesses on the side. It usually meant a part-time job but I would choose deliberately to do like entry-level jobs so I could go in, do my work, leave again, work around the kids, not take any responsibility home with me. But also too, I've been in my family are cattle breeders, and I've been involved with that since the day I was born. I lived and breathed business. I remember doing my first cattle deal as a 4-year-old, literally 4 years old.
Oh.
We went to this, I was 4. This is the only time I can remember my dad spending an entire day with my dad by myself before I went to school. We were, because of the nature of the work, Dad couldn't take us down the paddock most of the times.
Yes.
This one particular day, we went into the sale yards in Wandoan, which is a little town near where I grew up, and a calf had been born overnight. Now, when cows identify their calves by smell, and if a calf is born in the stockyards, in that space, there's been dozens and dozens of animals come through. And so the calf will end up with smells of all these different animals from lying on the soil. And so it's absolutely very normal for a cow to reject a calf if it's born in the stockyards.
Okay.
So this calf was rejected by its mother because it didn't smell like her calf. She didn't identify it. So she was pushing it away when normally she would have been protecting it. And you can't reverse that usually.
No.
So I don't know where the cow ended up, but they sold the calf separately. And I remember sticking my head through the rails and I was doing this, trying to bid on this calf, and we spent $10 buying a little calf that day. Now, we had gone to town in the ute, which is a trayback, Americans call them trucks, and so didn't really have something to cart this calf home in. So we had the tray, but normally you'd put them in a crate, and we didn't have one. So Dad hog-tied it, where you tie their feet together, and put the calf in the back, because this calf's only like 50 odd kilos. They're only like at most probably more like 30. I don't know. I've never actually weighed a calf, and you don't usually get to pick them up because the cows are so protective you can't get near them.
Don't touch my baby.
And we put it in the back of a tray. And now, I was born in 1975. This was 79. We're driving home. I'm standing on the seat beside my dad because that was legal then. And we went over this big bump, and the calf bounced out of the ute, landed on the ground, and bounced off the road into the grass. And I made this big commotion, and I got Dad to stop, and he turned around, went back, picked up the calf. She was fine, took her home. When she bounced, she looked like a ping pong ball. So she became Ping Pong, and Ping Pong was my first cow.
So Ping Pong was the start of your business experience.
Pretty much. Ping Pong was another amazing investment. She turned out the best cows, the best heifers that bred on. She produced bulls that went into the sale that made a lot of money. She was a phenomenal investment. She produced something like 13 calves before she ended up needing to be, sent to the sale yards for cull for age. You could not hope for better, quite frankly. But the thing is that, I got to help feed her because we had to bottle feed her when she was little and this sort of stuff. Mum did most of it because that was Mum's role when we had calves, but I'd go and help and stuff. But the thing is too, that when we had cattle with our own cattle, whatever came from that, we weren't protected from the results. So if our cows had calves that died, well, you got one less than you heard. If you've got if a cow wasn't going to produce, she gets her head chopped off. That's the nature of a beef breeding business, right? It's not about animal cruelty or anything else. It's about making sure that you can provide for the animals that provide for your business, and that you then use those animals that don't provide in the way that you want in a different way to actually help your business. And look, some people don't like that reality. This is what happens when you get steak on the table. It's a process. Anyway, so we got to live that the whole time. As I got older, I ended up with a cattle stud of my own. I did deals with Dad about trading the cows so that I could upgrade from this level of cow to that level of cow, and all these other things. We got to work in it when we were home from boarding school on the holidays. And all of that stuff, all of those things have come through to the point where when I started my business, I knew that what I noticed with all of my friends who I had been talking about for years was that most people were not really clear on what their ideal life looked like. They just got in and were just working the grindstone and working and working and working and working. And then when they don't get the results that they want, you know, at some point we all have that point where we lift our head up and look around and go, this is where I specialize. It's about helping you get from that to this is what I want and this is how I'm going to get there.
Great. So you grew up with that entrepreneurial spirit right from the start.
Yeah. All of my family have their own businesses. Nobody works. My husband is literally the only person in our entire family on my dad's side that has a job working for somebody else. Everyone else is either they have multiple businesses that the husbands and wives run separately, or they've got like, you know, my younger brother and his wife run the family business. My older brother and his wife are in the business, and then, you know, they both do off-farm work. We all have our own business. It's just the way it is. My mum's side of the family is different. They all tend to work for other people. But we were a part of, you know, mum and dad, when they married, continued into the family business that dad was a part of, and that's been the strongest influence on me. So
okay.
Yeah.
So that's your business background. When did you start writing?
When I committed to the book that you were a part of.
I mean, I don't necessarily mean formal writing.
No.
There might have been, I'm wondering whether writing has been part of your growing up as well.
Not really. Like, I loved to read when I was a kid. I didn't actually ever write very much.
Okay.
And it's not something that I did when I was, you know, like I went through uni, I did a degree, completely unrelated, well, mostly unrelated to the work that I do now, but I did a degree in science. I wrote for that. I didn't write otherwise. When I first started 10,000 Dreams, when I first started a social media account, which was well before 10,000 Dreams, I probably started writing a little bit then, because I've always been somebody who has collected quotes. And when I was, I haven't done it in this house, but in our previous house, I used to have like key quotes, and I'd stick them on Post-it notes and put them all over my kitchen wall, because the kitchen was where I spent most of my time. Because you'd see a quote and my brain would go off on this little tangent, and then I'd read it again and then something else would come through. And so I would share those on social media. So I'd share a quote tile, and then I'd do a little bit of a blurb, like a mini blog, I guess. And that was only ever on social media. And I just did it because I saw how it could help me, and I was hoping that it would help other people. And so I would share.
You were writing.
I guess that's probably where I started to write.
This is why I'm challenging the perception of what is an author. Yes, published author, fair enough. And yes, thank you for the plug.
Yes.
This was the book that Terri came in on for last year. Then we did the Making a Difference book.
Yes.
Wonderful book, thoroughly recommend it. And she also was in another multi-author book the same year, within a few weeks of each other publishing.
Yeah, the second book had actually been, I'd actually started writing for that first, for what became the second book, which is called Meant for More.
Which I'm presently reading.
I had started, we had a very interesting journey with that book. The publisher who pulled us all together as a group initially sort of got us going really, really beautifully, and then vanished for a period of time, just like literally zero contact, nothing at all. Then they reappeared for a short period of time, and then they vanished again. And so we started with something like 100 and whatever people, 121, I think, were originally signed up to that project initially. It was chaos.
What were they planning on doing with 120 writers?
I have no idea. That was not information I was privy to. I just know that there was this massive group of people. And each time that she, like, each time that publisher faltered, whether she was late with a deadline or she vanished for a period of time, you would watch people just gradually drop off.
Yeah.
And it got to the end after the second time that she vanished, and it had been a period of time. We had a closed Facebook group, and one person in there, Natalie Dolan, who seriously, without this woman, our book would not exist. She popped up and went, has anyone heard from the publisher? Da, 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 da. Anyway, Natalie with her, she's like an Energizer bunny. This woman is like unstoppable. It was phenomenal, honestly, what she put into it. But she reinvigorated the group. And there was a key group of us who said, right, yes, we're going to proceed with this. And it became a self-published book, which was, oh, man, that was hard work. The work that a publisher puts into bringing together a book is extraordinary. As an author, if you're a part of a co-authored book and you're looking at what the publisher is asking and going, what, how hard can it be? Let me just tell you. And I didn't even do all the work, but it's so much that goes on in the background to bring a book to the point where it can actually go to print.
Yeah.
And so that book, I wasn't sure was actually going to come to print, and I wanted something to represent my business and to be able to physically show people who I am, what I do, why I do what I do, etc. And so, and also because I could see the value, Wendy, in what you pulled together with Crystal and Jenny in that dynamic. And so I then committed to doing the Making a Difference book, and it ended up coming out. We went international bestseller. It was amazing. It was so educational. It was wonderful. And then I took all of those learnings and helped to apply it to the Meant for More book. And so we became bestseller in Australia as well with that one.
Fabulous, fabulous. So that's twice in 1 year.
Twice in 1 year. So we had Making a Difference came out in August and Meant for More came out in October.
I was going to say, I think it was October, yeah.
Late October. Yeah, it was a very, very big weekend that weekend. Lots of very life-changing things happened for me that weekend. Yeah.
So that's where you started your writing officially. Well, no, we're saying that the social media stuff came first, but that was your first formal published
This is what I could,
last year.
Yes.
What about speaking? Because I know that you did a phenomenal book launch on the back of the Mad Book. In front of how many people?
I think there was about 120 in the room that day.
Was that your first experience of stage work?
Not well, to that size, no. I had spoken in front of a group of 300 previously where I was interviewed, but that was many years before and in a completely different context. And that was simply sharing about my journey. I had been a part of a program and had lost a significant amount of weight, and the people who I was working with at the time, these 300 odd people, wanted me, like the people who led that group asked me to speak on stage, and so because the nerves were so bad then, I was interviewed rather than just speaking independently about what I did. But the mindset stuff that came into that, which is so much about what I do now anyway, was still that key message. So yeah, so that was the 300 was probably my first speak from stage in a formal environment. When I started 10,000
you were nervous. I mean, cut your teeth on the big stuff, hey?
It was in the middle of a 3-day conference, you know.
Yeah, audience, you'll have gathered by now that Terri doesn't do things by halves. She's an all-in kind of a gal.
I figure that you jump off the deep end and start eating the elephant on the way down. It's because, like, eating an elephant and jumping in the deep end, there's just not quite enough there. I got to do both.
You got to do both at the same time. Love it. That was a big wide open mouth for those of you listening on audio. Okay, so we've now established that you've done some stage work.
Yes,
those two big ones. What about other speaking opportunities? Have you done any virtual work or any? Oh, we know that you do your weekly podcast.
Lots and lots of. So soon after I started my business, after I started 10,000 Dreams, I started a Facebook group called Leaders in Business.
Okay.
And the goal of that was about to create a space. If you are in a business and building a business, you are a leader. Anyone, honestly, the role of a leader is, in my opinion, very much like not even identified by most people who are actually key leaders in their community and in their family and in their businesses. But if you are working on creating change, then you are leading.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. And it's whether it's microscopic or whether it's massive world-based change, you are still a leader.
Yes.
The role, though, of a leader, the nature of being the person who's out in the front, asking people to come with them on this journey, can be a little bit lonely sometimes. And so I created Leaders in Business with the view of giving people the space to come into where they could share about what was happening in their world, that it's a very supportive and inclusive environment. Yes, you can promote your business, but no, you can't promote it every damn day. I don't want it to be a pitch fest. Anyway, when I first got started with Leaders in Business, I actually ran networking events for that every single month. So physical, face-to-face, in a room, where I would share, like I would run the meeting, share something of my content that was, or something that I thought was relevant to the group at the time. And we would have a guest speaker who would have a space as well to share about their business. And so we did these, I don't even know how long I did them for, probably 18 months, where I did them, plus a couple of events like Small Business Christmas Party and a Christmas in July. Ran a Christmas in July first about 2 or 3 weeks after the COVID restrictions lifted in our area.
Can I just stop you for a second? For those of our audience who are not based in Australia and are going, Christmas in July? What's that about? For those of us who are expats and we're living in Australia and discovering that Christmas, as in December, is often temperatures, well, let's just say in Perth, we had a record 45 a couple of years ago.
Now, I haven't done a 45-degree Christmas, but
yeah, now that is a roasting Christmas. For those of you in North America, Fahrenheit-wise, we're talking around 110, 115, that sort of temperature at Christmas. So those of us who are used to North America, dark nights, snow, mulled wine, all the Christmas trappings, you try translating that to full summer. It doesn't work. So that's why somebody came up with the bright idea of Christmas in July, when it's the down under winter, when everybody's looking for the cozy fires, the dark nights, the mulled wine maybe. So that's just to give you a bit of an insight into Christmas in July, which is very definitely an Aussie thing. Do they do it in New Zealand as well?
Do they what, sorry?
Do they do Christmas in July in New Zealand as well?
I have no idea. I'll have to find out.
I'll have to ask my Kiwi mates.
I think it's definitely a Southern Hemisphere thing, because, you know, we, like, all my life, to this day, I have wanted to do a really beautiful traditional white Christmas. I have been in America I was in America for one Christmas. It wasn't a traditional white Christmas. It was lovely and it was beautiful being able to enjoy all these hot meals and all that sort of stuff on Christmas Day. I also, though, worked Christmas Day because of what I was doing at the time. Loved it, was really, but it was just not, I still want to go back and do what I had. You know, you see the storybook Christmases with the ugly sweaters and everyone sitting around having, you know, roast dinners and open fire, all that stuff. Yes. So looking out to the snow on the spruce. And yes, I would love to do that. However, where I live, we don't even get snow. I'm too far north. It's too hot here for it to snow. We get a little, we barely even get a frost in wintertime, honestly, where I live. So yes, Christmas. And I love Christmas. I love it. My husband hates it. So I run Christmas events and then I get to celebrate Christmas and get my Christmas fix.
Yes. Love it. So that's where your speaking has been part of your networking, part of your presentation stuff. And what, as you mentioned, that C word, when COVID hit, everybody had to pivot from the in-person stuff to online. And you've kept your networking meetings going online, or have they gone to that and then gone back to physical? How's that working for you at the moment?
I actually chose to stop the networking events through the COVID lockdown itself. And that period of time, I was actually really sick. I had become ill with what they ended up working out was vestibular migraine, where I had terrible troubles with vertigo. But that actually started for me at the end of January in 2020. And then the COVID stuff in Australia kicked off in the beginning of March. So my world was already upside down when COVID came along. So I did things like set up Zoom rooms so that people who were really struggling could jump into there and we could talk to each other and those sorts of things. But because also too, my world was already upside down. I was a couple of steps ahead in that whole processing phase. And so when I saw all my friends have their worlds turned upside down by the lockdowns, I'm like, right, let's at least get in here and have a space where we can talk. So I set up a room where literally anybody could get in it. We had a messenger group and a Zoom room. And if someone needed something, they would put it into the messenger group. And if one of us was available, we would get into the Zoom room and we would chat. And that was the best way that I could see to support my friends at the time, because I physically couldn't be anywhere. And in the majority, I could barely move off the couch, honestly.
Yeah.
Once COVID restrictions were lifted and we opened everything up again, we ran the Christmas in July. That was the first one. I've run them every year since, and they've taken on all these different forms. I'm actually about to start organising the one for this year. I'm late on that one because of life. Late in the organising, I should say. However, after a period of time, there were so many, after post-COVID, there seemed to be this explosion of events. And I think it's because people realised how important it was to come together, to physically be in the presence of each other, to build community, to stay connected as human beings. You know, when we were, and I was thinking about this just the other day, when you look back at how our society used to be, where you talk about that the village raises, you need a village to raise a child and all those sorts of things. And as people, we were so much more connected many years ago. Our world has changed. We still need that connection, but we don't get it as much now. So things like coaches, like I do, become more important, because the sort of support that I offer to people would have come previously from parts of your community. And now that's not as available. And so we go and find it in a professional setting. Similar with networking events. You don't have the interaction so much on a social level with those other people who are on a business journey.
Yes.
And when you're like, there's a difference in the journey of being the business owner to the employee.
Yes.
In the responsibility, in the way that your brain operates. And thank goodness, quite frankly, that there is a difference. But I think networking events are really important to maintain that social structure that supports you as a business owner. And what I found post-COVID was that initially there was this huge demand because my events were already visible and known and all the rest of it. And then the demand for it tapered off very, very dramatically, because all of these other events were starting and people were going to them to get what they needed in that social context. And so I chose to stop doing the physical networking and just continue with those 2 Christmas events. So I'm still doing it. It's just that the need has changed, and so I've changed what I do.
Well, you're pivoting, being a good business person and swapping around to meet the needs of your market. Sure.
I hear the word pivot and I think of irrigators. I don't think you're changing direction.
I hear the word pivot and think, if I had $1 for every time I heard that word 4 years ago, oh my word, wouldn't we be millionaires?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, yes, the thing is, I think that we need the English language is a little bit lacking in terms of the words that we can use in that context. You know, in terms of when you look at how broad the English language is compared to others, we don't have a lot of words in our language. And so there are like this whole thing about pivot. If you think about where I talk about irrigation, when you see if you ever see an aerial view of crops and you've got those ones that are circles, well, that's a center pivot irrigator where there's a thing that goes all the way around. And so that's why you've got a circle of, so I think we didn't irrigate at home, but when I hear pivot, I think irrigators, and then I'm like, no, you're talking about business, like changing direction.
Maybe I should use the word pirouette.
Maybe, but then I go to ballet, so
well, exactly. I
don't know.
I mean, whatever we're looking at, this is pulling on my love of language. in that
Yes.
we all have our own internal vision of what a word means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when we say a word, we kind of expect the other person to have the same mental picture.
Yeah.
Until there's that, maybe subtle, maybe, what? Look.
Yep.
And you realize, okay, that one didn't land. Try that again.
Yep.
Yeah.
We had this discussion when we refer to the Making a Difference book.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. So coming forward then, you've done, are there any other books in the offing?
Not yet. I do have plans to do a solo book that is more around the what I do, how I help people. It's the bigger part of my story, because with the 2 books that are out already, the Meant for More, that one that was such a challenging journey, Meant for More is much more of the personal story of how I got to where I am now.
Yep.
Whereas the Making a Difference book is more about what I do, how I do it. There's elements of both in both, but the focus, there is a different focus with those 2 different, the content that I've put into each of those books. So I would like to write another book that is, I've got a book title that I'm sort of playing around with, and I haven't worked out where to go with it yet.
Do you want to share?
It's I don't know whether it's going to be in the title or in the tagline, but it'll be about the window of possibilities.
Say that again.
I don't know whether it will be in the tagline or the title, but it's about the window of possibilities.
Window of possibilities. Right. Oh,
yes.
Love it.
Yes. So
do you have a timeline that you're aiming for, or is it,
no, not yet.
Out
right now, I mean, we're talking right now. It's late April 2024. My world has recently been turned upside down with my father passing away about 7 weeks ago, and he was diagnosed. So the weekend that we went bestseller was the weekend that my dad was diagnosed with cancer. The weekend of the Meant for More.
Yeah.
And so from that, really, I had, that extreme high and extreme low within 24 hours. And then the journey of spending as much time as I could to support him through that, through his journey. And then all the things that happen after his passing. So at this point, I'm still re-emerging from the cocoon kind of thing. And so while the plans are there, I'm also in the process of adding a whole other arm to my business. And so the book is, while it's important, I have deliberately not put a time frame onto it right now, because I don't want to put that pressure on myself.
Yeah. But so what else is happening in the business then? Give us a bit of info on that.
So I am reinvigorating what I do and how I do it. So if for clients who want to come and work with me, once they've decided that, yes, this is what I want to do, that they want to get my help, one of the first things I get them to do is a dream board workshop. So I run these at the moment virtually periodically. My next one, if you're listening soon, is early June in 2024.
Do you have a particular website or somewhere where you advertise these? Just thinking of putting it in the show notes.
So
for folks.
The best place to go at this point is to my Facebook page for my business. So if you look for either Terri Adams-Munn or 10,000 Dreams, because I've got both in the title of my business page.
Cool. We'll make sure that's in the show notes for you.
There. Yeah. So in the events there, that's where it's the most accurate at the moment. We are in the process of upgrading the website so that it will be on there as well. But right now, the most consistent one is the Facebook page. So at the moment, because of logistics, the dream board workshops are only online. I have previously run these in person and done them as hybrid, so where you've got people online and people in the room. That's actually my favorite way to run them, because I
what I
love
did.
having people in the room with me. It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's running an event with someone in the room, for me, helps to feed my energy.
Yes.
But if I can have people online as well, you can reach all those people who can't physically be there with you. And it's a little bit of a like technical challenge, and it's not, I haven't perfected the system, but I do really love that way, that methodology of running workshops. Finding a space locally where I can run those workshops consistently in a way that makes sense to me has been a real challenge. So I'm in the process of buying a space.
Ooh.
And I've bought another elephant that I'll like grow the wings for on the way down, kind of. Well, I haven't actually bought it yet. We are still in the process. However,
So
the building
exciting expansion happening.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Cool. What about plans to do more speaking? Now, I know you have your weekly Tuesday chats, which Rose by any other name is still a Rose. We have a podcast, basically. You've been doing a visual podcast long before anybody thought, hold on a minute, YouTube Shorts, YouTube podcast. Maybe we got the idea.
I started it in January 2021. So, and I've done it almost every week since then. I did take a pause over the time when Dad was really sick and immediately following his passing. But other than that, prior to that, I could count on one hand the number of Tuesdays that I had missed, including Christmas and New Year.
I absolutely honor your consistency, because I love the idea of consistency and persistence. Consistent and persistent. That those are our twin watchwords. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's something that you're doing. You're hosting regularly. Do you appear on other people's podcasts as well?
Periodically, but it's not something that I have sort of put myself out for a lot, and so I haven't been invited to many of them. There's a few that I've done though. Sure. I've spoken to I can't even think. Anyway, I've been interviewed by Ryan, who does the podcast for the BX Network, which is the networking group that I'm part of.
Yep.
I've been Justin over in Perth. I've spoken on his a couple of times. I've been interviewed by a couple of people in the States. So there's a few out there. There's not very many though at this point. Yeah.
Well, when you come to wanting to add that as a regular thing for selling your books, selling your programs, that sort of thing, give me a shout, because I can put you in touch with a wonderful group called Need a Guest.
Yes, I would like to do that, because I do think at this point,
and Angel Tussey, who is the founder of that, was one of our guests, and her episode, as we're recording this, her episode goes live this week.
So, perfect.
But obviously this one won't go out in the same time, but I'm just allowing you to, those of you guys who are thinking, podcasting may be something I want to investigate a bit further, that's one to check out. Yeah. Cool.
Being a podcast guest is a really lovely way to share your message in a simple way, because it's just in the context of this, it's just you and I having a chat, really. But it also, when you are refining who you are, what you do, it's a really great opportunity to kind of test the waters in terms of the language that you use and how you describe those, what it is that you do. It's like when I was talking before about, I don't really know what to call myself. I don't want to call myself a mindset coach, even though mindset is a big part of it. I just don't think it's all encompassing enough. And it's also too much cliche.
That's where I get a little hung up on labels, because, as we said before, the concept, the picture in my head of what I mean by that may be very different to yours. Whereas if you give a process, it's like classic example I used to use when doing business networking was talking to Sparkies. Oh no, it was plumbers. That's right, it's plumbers. A lot of people have a negative memory of when they had a call out for a plumber. So immediately, as soon as you say you're a plumber, you cost too much, you don't clear up after yourself, it's blah, 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 blah. And they therefore put that those glasses, those lenses on when they hear what you're saying. Whereas what I suggested to the guys was, I help your life flow with ease. And they go, how'd you get that?
Yep.
I went, hello, water, flow.
Yep.
And that's enough to get people second guessing, asking questions, and those blinkers aren't there.
Yes.
So that's something, just a gentle suggestion, that think about how you could do a process, explain a bit of a process, just enough to go, what do you mean by that?
Yep.
Yeah, good fun, good fun.
Yes,
absolutely. Okay, so as we're winding up then, I'm going to ask you, are there any golden wisdom nuggets you can share with us about how you embody your words when you take them from the page to the stage? And by stage, we mean your Tuesday chats, your podcasts, your virtual work, your stage work. Anything that you can share with us?
I think in amongst all the work that we do, however we, like that whole authenticity piece, I think is so important. You talked about before about the importance of consistency, etc. The consistency, yes, I've been very consistent with Tuesday chats until recently, and I'm getting back into it again now. But it's also about consistency in who you are, what you say, what you stand for, what's okay in your world, what's not. So I think that's one of the key things that people, if you are, I've watched businesses start with, I'm going to be this because that's what my clients want. And I've watched those people also burn out very, very quickly. Now, one of the things I actually was, just before we came on here before, I actually have just printed out for myself a PDF that I have on the website that is a complimentary, it's free for anyone who wants to download it. And it's called From Stuck and Stagnant to Motivated and Motoring in 7 Easy Steps.
Motivated and motivated. Oh, nice.
That's my goal in everything that I do, whether it's about having a conversation with someone, whether it's about helping you to define your life dreams and what that looks like, whether it's about helping you to sort out a little hiccup that you've got in some, interpersonal thing, whether it's with a co-worker or with a partner or with your kids or whatever. We get stuck. We all get stuck at different times. And when you stay stuck for too long, you get stagnant. Like you think about stagnant water, smelly, gross, awful, right? Nobody wants that in their life. If you're there, you don't want to stay there, but most people don't know how to get out of that alone.
Yep.
And honestly, in this process where I've been grieving my dad, I've been stuck myself. I had a really horrible day just 2 days ago. And it was a Saturday. My dad passed away on a Saturday. And then we had drizzly weather and everything just felt like it was too much that day. Woke up yesterday, had a great day, like just completely different. However, one of the things that I did on Saturday is I went and I looked at this PDF again. And today I've printed it out because I'm actually going to go and take some of my own medicine.
Oh,
and
cool.
follow the steps that I've put into there to help me get to where I feel far more motivated and am motoring through life again. I'm still moving forwards right now. And I'm not putting a big judgment on myself because I have never lost a parent before. My mum is still alive and very healthy. I'm super lucky. I even still have a grandmother who's alive. I'm very, very lucky at 48 years old to have the people around me that I do. So it's not that I'm not honouring the process of grieving my dad or anything else. However, I know that I can't stay here and I need to get moving again for my own benefit.
Yeah.
And so my invitation is that if you know that you're stuck somewhere, if something is coming up and feels heavy, drags you down, slowing your progress, etc., have a look at this PDF as a starting point. Maybe I'm the right person to help you and maybe it's somebody else, but start somewhere, and to download a really easy free PDF is a super simple spot. So there's not a lot, like you don't even have to print it out if you don't want to. I just like to write on things. So I printed it out, right? You can print it if you choose. But do something, take a little micro step forwards when you're stuck. And you just, that may turn into a massive something. It may just stay as a micro step, but that little bit of progress, the human experience, a big part of it is about moving forwards and becoming the better version of you. So if you are stuck,
that's what you're taking every time you open your mouth. You're taking that. Where am I on my journey? Am I stagnant? Am I motoring? And what I'm hearing from you is that's what I'm modeling. That's what I'm showing people, that even in the crappy times in life, there are still those tiny steps that we can take to get us out of the stuck and stagnant.
Yep. And sometimes writing off an entire day to eat chocolate under a doona with a really good book and cry is actually a really big step forwards, because it allows you to rest and to grieve. Because that's as important as the physical doingness that we all get so tied up in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's a conversation
my
for
message
another day.
About
the difference between the doing and the being.
It's a very big and deep and important conversation.
It is. And actually something that was part of a topic of a different conversation I had with somebody whose podcast has already gone live, but that's another person. We'll talk about that.
I am not the person to talk about this topic.
We've got your page stuff.
Yes.
And so we'll pop the specific URL link to your PDF on the show notes as well. So thank you for sharing that. You've got stage work coming up. You do your weekly Tuesday chats with small business people.
Yes.
If our audience are going, that might be interesting, is it something that you invite people to? Can they apply? How does that work?
Send me a message. I don't have a super formal process. I like to keep this stuff super simple. Let's chat, let's have a quick conversation. The easiest place to find me typically is Facebook. I'd send it to my personal page rather than my business page. Okay. For this nature of this conversation, because I want to get to know you as a person. Sure. And so just reach out there. You can also go through the website and do a contact form through there. There's a gazillion different ways that you can contact me. Okay. I've even got my mobile number on most of those things, whether that's a good or bad thing. Are you on WhatsApp as well? I am on WhatsApp. Cool. Yep. For our listeners who are not in Australia, those are quite handy. Don't message me on Instagram. I just don't get in there very much. Right. I'll see it eventually, but it could take me months. So do we put the Instagram information on your show notes or leave that one out? Leave that one. No, leave it out, I think. Leave it out. Yeah, because I don't actively get into Instagram. Got it. Okay. So that's all. I get it. I'm a little bit of an anomaly. So we can get on your stages. And as I mentioned to you and the audience earlier, there's a very good podcast group, Need a Guest. And we'll mention that in the show notes as well. So anybody who's watching this and thinks, how do I get on more podcasts? I'm not an affiliate. I don't get any kickback from this. However, I think it's a very good group to join. It's a useful platform. So many people consume podcasts now. Yeah. And you can be really niche and strategic as to who your audience is, so that you know that you're hitting the right people with your message. Back to what you were saying about messaging and making sure that you hit home. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. As we're finishing up, have I forgotten anything? Have we missed anything off? I think we've covered it all, really. Beautiful. All the important stuff is there. Thank you. Thank you so much, Terri, for sharing your From Page to Stage. For now, bye from us. Bye.